my name is Chef Alex Pope, and today we are going to be making quick smoked skirt steak tacos. I really like this taco recipe because you get to have some beef tacos, you get some of that great Kansas City smoke flavor, but on a steak, and on a quick cooking steak, that is. I love skirt steak because it's tender, it's got great marbling, and it cooks quickly, takes great to seasoning, and you can slice it so it fits nicely in a little taco shell. I especially like this recipe because we do a little bit of grilled avocado, a lot of lime juice and salt, and that makes a great dressing on top of the tacos. So we're gonna get this one started pretty easily with a beautiful skirt steak. I like to roll skirt steaks up like this before we talk about them, but now you can see the whole skirt steak. It's usually about a 2-pound steak, 1.5 pounds. You can ask your meat market or butcher to cut it to any size you'd like. I wouldn't go less than 3/4 of a pound to do this recipe. So a lot of skirt steak recipes are going to call for a marinade, which is great. This certainly picks up a marinade well, but it doesn't really need a huge amount of marinade. It's beef, it's flavorful. All it really needs is a little salt. Also, we throw on some ground cumin. Skirt steak is a traditional recipe choice, but you could also do a flat iron, even a strip steak if you wanted to try something a little different. Step one. We're gonna get our wood chips soaking. You wanna get this about a half an hour before you do anything else. You can use any wood chips you like. I like hickory. If you wanna do something real flavorful, you could go for a mesquite. It's real simple, it's water on top of your wood chips. Set that to the side. We want that to pick up enough water so that they don't instantly burst into flames when we put them on the charcoal, but rather they do a slow combustion and produce a lot of smoke. So, step one, you got that done. Step two, we're gonna season our steak. So unroll your beautiful skirt steak and get yourself some seasoning. I like a coarse sea salt, and you wanna put a good amount on. Remember, some of this is gonna fall off as you're handling it. Some of it's gonna fall off on the grill. Not every bit of salt you're putting on here is gonna stay. So when it says a tablespoon of salt, don't be shy. Go ahead and put a full tablespoon of salt on. You want to work a little bit to rub it in. Okay. If you're using a smaller piece, perhaps a 1-pound skirt steak, feel free to cut that in half a little bit. Then you're going to be going for some cumin. Toasted and ground is best, or if you can get to a nice spice market and get fresh ground, that's also a great option. Cumin, of course, is a classic seasoning in Mexican cuisine, as well as lots of other cuisines, and it lends a super distinctive flavor that goes great with all of the peppers and the avocados we're going to be working with. That's a teaspoon. If you like a lot of seasoning, you can certainly do more. And then when it comes back time to work with it again, feel free to just roll that up so you don't have to flop it around everywhere. Get ready over here. Okay. Then we're going to give our cutting board a quick wipe and do our veg prep. All right. So today we're going to be working with 3 different peppers. Red, yellow, and Anaheim, which has just a touch of heat and can be a little bigger than this, a little smaller than this, can be a lighter green, a darker green, but it's a great pepper. And what we're gonna do is take the tops and bottoms off of these so that we have a flat piece that's ready for the grill. So, step one, top, bottom, top, bottom, and these are great. If you're hungry while you're working, set them to the side, don't throw those away. Next step, cut a slit, open that up, and pull out your seeds. Set those to the side, cut a slit, gonna unroll that pepper. If you're doing this right, you can keep the seed pod intact and it doesn't get seeds everywhere. Cut this into about a shape like this. Again, we're after a nice uniform cooking surface. And one more. Goes away. Okay, this is what's gonna go on the grill with our skirt steak. So we're gonna head out to the grill and get that on. The important thing for this recipe is that you bank the coals. You don't want to put the coals directly in the center. Pick a side, left or right. And now that the coals are getting white and a little bit of gray, they're hot and they're ready to go. So we're gonna roll out the meat. We're gonna put the meat directly over the top, and we're gonna put the vegetables to the side. And again, we're gonna close the lid. Now that we've had a couple of minutes, we're gonna pop the top back off, and we're gonna flip. And at this point, we're gonna add our wood chips directly on top of there. Want to make sure you're not dumping water on them, so you want to lift them up and let the water shake out, add them back on. We want to let them smoke for a couple of minutes. And that meat should be just about ready to go. So we're going to cut up these avocados before we cook them so that we can scoop them out once we're done. So when I think about an avocado, I think about it like the globe. And when I say north-south, it's north-south, east-west, east-west. So when you read the recipe, that's the reference point there. So I like to start, cut it in half this way. Go ahead and get your avocado pit out. That's one, and another one. These are perfectly ripe avocados. Beautiful. All right, quick knife, scoop. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some cuts this way and then a couple cuts this way. So 1, 2, and then come around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8 cuts. And that is just about bite-sized pieces. So once they're cooked, we can pop them straight out of the shell and we don't have to worry about cutting them. Okay. And yes, you could cut your hand doing this, just be gentle. If the avocado is ripe, you should just be scraping the back of the shell with a minimal effort. Okay. All right, so this is your prep before we head out to the grill. So we're gonna take that meat off, move it to a separate tray. It's really important we let this rest. This has gotta rest for at least 10, 12 minutes. So don't think about even touching that, set it to the side. And we're gonna move the peppers over the hot part of the grill. We're gonna be looking to get some char on the outside of them. Black is fine, it means the skin is burned, that's really flavorful. And when those are done, we're gonna put our avocados on directly over the hottest part of the grill. 30, 60, 90 seconds. We're in seconds, not minutes on this. Right, everything's off the grill, and now it's time to start cutting. Get ready for our tacos. So we've got our peppers, and they should be cooled down enough to handle. And they're gonna have, these black spots are gonna blister up, and they're gonna be real easy to peel off. I like to take my thumb and just kind of scrape them off. Don't worry too much about getting every little bit off of them. It's a flavorful product, that little char. Okay, and these are the skins. The skins won't hurt you, but you do want to get them off if you can. So this is what we're looking for. Most of the skin is off, and we're going to pile these peppers up so that we can cut them into strips. I like to think about what size my tortilla is going to be and try and cut them to that size. Today we're going to be using little street corn style tortillas, so we're going to cut this way instead of this way. So they're pretty well piled up. And real quick chop. All right, that's ready. And now we're gonna move on to our steak. So remember, this came off first. This has been resting for 6, 7, 8 minutes, but you do want it to be relatively cooler to the touch. If it's so hot you can't touch it, it has not properly rested. That's really important to remember. And now we're going to talk real quick about the way to cut a strip steak. If you see there are lines going this way on a strip steak, what we want to do is do our best to cut at an angle against them. So if I've got my lines running this way, I'm going to cut at an angle like this. So your first couple cuts won't look quite like good strips, but as we get going, there we go. What we're going for is, again, bite-sized pieces. These are going into tacos, so you don't want to have to chew too much. If you want to throw a little angle on there, it's not going to hurt anything. Of course, skirt steak does have different thicknesses, so if you have people in your group that like your steak a little more or less cooked, you can section off, for instance, this piece. It's a little thinner. It's going to be a little more cooked than the ends, which are a little thicker, going to be a little less cooked. So that's getting ready. Our next one, same story. Lines are going this way. So we want to try and get a 45-degree angle. And this is just to help with the tenderness. After these are all finished cutting, we're going to move on to making our smoked avocados. So remember, we cut these ahead of time, so you don't need to worry about cutting them now. And you'll notice the color has turned really nice and bright green on the surface layer. And you'll see a little bit of char marks and some brown. That's what we're going for. So again, you want to start at the bottom and just do a scoop. Do your best to scrape the bottom of the spoon against the flesh and get as much out as possible. And then we're going to season these. I like to season it just with lime juice and salt. One of the flavors we're going for is the smoke from the grill, and we don't want to cover that up with too many seasonings. Unless you're really into garlic and scallions, they would make a great addition, but you don't need them. We're going to take a lime. This is a rather large lime. I'm going to use half of it. If this was a smaller lime, key lime, or a little bigger, I'd use the whole thing. And there are best ways to cut a lime. I'll show you that. So 2 halves. I like to think of a lime or any citrus fruit as having 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to use 3 of these pieces, and they're relatively equal in juice. Okay. And then we're going to season with salt again. About half a tablespoon, 2 teaspoons, and that's it. So the acidity is really going to bring out the flavors, and the smoke and the salt are going to make everything pop. Great. All right, everything is cut and we are ready to make some tacos. So we've got 2 different kinds of taco shells, flour and corn. Pick your poison. I like a little bit of both. I like to start with avocados on the bottom, move on to a few peppers, and a few nice pieces of skirt steak. So the great thing about skirt steak is when you cut it up like this, a little goes a long way. Be able to make a lot of tacos with this. Same idea with the corn tortillas. Avocado, pepper, steak, off you go.